Who's making something that's a beautiful sphere like that, that's 3 times harder than modern aluminum? If you can make something that's 3 times the hardness of modern aircraft aluminum, couldn't you draw better half moons?
Yeah, I should be able to.
Why does that look so shitty? How cool is that?
It's pretty cool. It looks like a helmet almost. And 12,000 years ago.
Joe Rogan just dropped a bombshell episode that's got everyone talking. A mysterious metallic sphere crashed in Colombia this year, and it's driving scientists absolutely crazy. This basketball-sized object zigzagged through the sky before landing, leaving behind dead vegetation and displaying impossible physics, like changing its weight from 5 pounds to 22 pounds while sitting on a shelf. But here's the kicker. Every single weird property matches exactly what Bob Lazar described about alien technology at Area 51 back in 1989. The seamless construction, the central chip, the gravity manipulation, it's all there. Is this finally proof Lazar was telling the truth, or are we witnessing the most elaborate hoax ever? And what does this mean for humanity's future? The sky falls in Colombia. March 2025 started like any other month in Buga, Colombia, until something changed everything. Residents looked up to see a metallic orb zigzagging through the sky in ways that seemed to mock the laws of physics. This wasn't a plane, helicopter, or any aircraft they recognized. The object moved with purpose, darting left and right before suddenly plummeting to Earth with a thud that would echo far beyond that small Colombian town. David Vez was the first person to reach the impact site. What he found defied explanation. A perfectly smooth metallic sphere about the size of a basketball, sitting in what would soon become a circle of dead vegetation. When Vez and his team tried to lift it, they discovered their first clue that this was no ordinary piece of debris. The sphere weighed just 4 to 5 pounds, roughly the same as a bag of sugar, which seemed impossibly light for solid metal. Word spread quickly through social media and local news. Videos showed people in hazmat suits carefully examining the object, treating it with the kind of caution usually reserved for radioactive materials. But this wasn't about radiation. It was about something far stranger. Within days, scientists from Mexico's National Autonomous University arrived to conduct the first official tests, and what they found would challenge everything we thought we knew about physics. The sphere that landed in Buga, now called the Buga sphere, wasn't just unusual. It was impossible, according to our current understanding of science. But here's where the story gets truly mind-bending. Every strange property this object displayed had been described before in vivid detail by a man named Bob Lazar back in 1989. The question isn't just what this sphere is, but whether it proves that Lazar's most controversial claims about alien technology were true all along. When physics breaks down. The first sign that something was seriously wrong with the Buga sphere came from a simple bathroom scale. Remember how the sphere initially weighed 4 to 5 pounds when it was first recovered? Within just a few weeks of sitting in a laboratory, that same object somehow gained weight, tipping the scales at 22 pounds. Objects don't just spontaneously become heavier. That's not how mass works in our universe. Scientists at Mexico's National Autonomous University documented what they called a negative mass effect during their testing. The sphere appeared capable of reducing its own weight by exactly 81%. Think about that for a moment. This means the sphere could somehow neutralize most of its own mass, making it nearly weightless, despite being made of solid metal. This isn't just unusual, it's the kind of property that could revolutionize everything from space travel to energy production. But the weight changes were just the beginning. Everywhere the sphere had landed, it left behind a perfect circle of death. The soil became completely dried out, drained of all moisture, and months later, nothing would grow in that spot. It was as if the ground had been sterilized by some unknown force. Local farmers and botanists had never seen anything like it. Healthy vegetation one day, dead and desiccated the next, with a perfect circular boundary that looked like it had been drawn with a compass. Even more disturbing was what witnesses observed about the sphere's interaction with its environment. Multiple people documented the object actively cooling the surrounding air, somehow absorbing heat at a rate of about 100 watts, like an air conditioner running without any visible power source. According to the basic laws of thermodynamics, energy can't just disappear. Heat has to go somewhere. So where was all that thermal energy going? And what was powering this impossible cooling effect? The environmental impact painted a picture of technology that operated on principles we don't understand. This wasn't a simple metal ball that had fallen from space. It was an active device that was somehow manipulating the fundamental forces around it, bending the rules of physics in ways that should have been impossible. Secrets inside a seamless shell. When scientists finally got the Buga sphere into an X-ray machine, what they found inside was even more shocking than its external behavior. The seamless metal shell, and it truly was seamless, with no visible joints, welds, or assembly marks anywhere, contained a precisely engineered interior that looked like nothing from Earth. At the very center of the sphere sat a dense nucleus, described as chip-like in its structure and composition. This wasn't a random chunk of material. It was clearly manufactured, designed to serve as some kind of core component. Surrounding this central chip were 16 to 18 perfectly arranged microspheres, each positioned with mathematical precision, like marbles suspended in a three-dimensional geometric pattern that would make any engineer weep with envy. But the real revelation came when researchers discovered a network of 52 fiber-like filaments running throughout the sphere's interior. These weren't crude wires or cables. They looked remarkably similar to fiber optic lines, capable of transmitting light signals rather than electrical current. The filaments connected through 3 concentric layers of material, creating what appeared to be a sophisticated communication or control system embedded within the sphere's structure. The construction baffled metallurgists and engineers who examined the X-ray images. How do you create a single, continuous piece of metal with such complex internal structures? Current manufacturing techniques would require assembly, which would leave seams, joints, or some evidence of how the pieces were put together. The Buga sphere showed none of these telltale signs. It appeared to have been created as one unified object, as if it had been grown rather than built. This seamless construction wasn't just impressive from an engineering standpoint, it was a signature characteristic that would prove crucial in connecting the sphere to claims made decades earlier. The internal layout, with its central chip surrounded by smaller spherical components and connected by an advanced filament network, represented a level of technological sophistication that seemed to come from somewhere else entirely. The question was whether that somewhere else was a classified human laboratory or something far more exotic. The Lazar connection emerges. In 1989, a relatively unknown scientist named Bob Lazar made claims that seemed like pure science fiction. He said he had worked at a secret facility called S4 near Area 51, where his job was to reverse engineer recovered alien spacecraft. Lazar described in detail the propulsion systems of these craft, focusing on what he called gravity reactors, dome-shaped devices about 18 inches in diameter that could manipulate gravitational fields. According to Lazar, these alien reactors were seamless, appearing to be molded from a single piece of material with no visible assembly marks, rivets, or welds. He emphasized how different this was from human technology, which always shows evidence of how components were joined together. The reactors contained a central chip made of a super-heavy element he called Element 115, surrounded by other components in a carefully designed internal structure. When news of the Buga sphere reached UFO researchers familiar with Lazar's testimony, the similarities were impossible to ignore. The Colombian sphere measured approximately 20 inches across, almost exactly the same size as Lazar's described reactor. Like the alien technology Lazar claimed to have studied, the sphere was completely seamless, baffling scientists who couldn't figure out how it had been manufactured. Most striking was the internal structure revealed by X-ray. Lazar had described a reactor with a central chip of element 115, surrounded by other spherical components. The Buga sphere contained a central chip-like nucleus surrounded by 16 to 18 microspheres arranged in precise geometric patterns. The parallel was so specific that it couldn't be dismissed as coincidence. But the real connection came from the sphere's behavior. Lazar claimed that alien craft could reduce their mass and manipulate gravity, allowing them to perform impossible maneuvers without generating the G-forces that would crush human occupants. The Colombian sphere demonstrated exactly this capability, reducing its weight by 81% and somehow manipulating gravitational effects around itself. For over 3 decades, Lazar's claims remained unverifiable. He had no physical evidence, his educational credentials couldn't be confirmed, and his story seemed too fantastic to believe. But the Buga sphere appeared to be a real-world example of the exact technology he had described, complete with the same size, construction method, internal layout, and gravity-manipulating capabilities. Either this was the most elaborate hoax in UFO history, or Bob Lazar had been telling the truth all along. A global pattern emerges. The Buga sphere didn't appear in isolation. It was part of a worldwide pattern that had been building for years. In 2023, Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, head of the Pentagon's All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, made an official statement that sent shockwaves through the scientific community. He confirmed that many unidentified anomalous phenomena observed by military sensors were metallic orbs, typically 1 to 4 meters in diameter, capable of hovering motionless or accelerating to high velocities with no visible propulsion system. The Pentagon even declassified footage of what became known as the Mosul Orb, a metallic sphere filmed by a US military drone over Iraq in 2016. The object looked remarkably similar to the Buga sphere, a smooth, reflective ball, moving with apparent intelligence through the sky. Military analysts had no explanation for what it was or how it operated, but they confirmed it was real and had been captured on multiple sensor systems. These sightings weren't limited to conflict zones. Commercial airline pilots reported encounters with bright orbs pacing their aircraft over the United Kingdom. Air traffic controllers at Manchester Airport documented a spherical object near the airfield that defied conventional aircraft behavior. Across Mexico, Argentina, and South America, reports of metallic spheres and plasma orbs increased dramatically between 2023 and 2025. The historical record revealed this wasn't a new phenomenon. In 1974, the Betts family in Florida found what became known as the Betts Mystery Sphere after a wildfire. That metallic ball was also seamless, and Navy X-rays revealed it contained smaller spherical masses inside with a layered shell structure. Family members reported the sphere exhibited strange behaviors, including moving on its own and emitting vibrating sounds. What made the pattern particularly intriguing was the locations where these spheres appeared. The Pentagon noted they were frequently observed near military installations and in active conflict zones. This suggested either advanced surveillance technology or some form of intelligence-gathering operation. But if these were human-made devices, why were they operating so openly? And if they weren't human-made, who was controlling them? The consistency of reports from around the world painted a picture of organized activity. These weren't random events or isolated incidents. They represented a coordinated phenomenon that had been occurring for decades. The Buga sphere might have been the first one recovered intact and made available for scientific study, but it was clearly part of something much larger and more systematic than anyone had initially realized. Scientific analysis and skeptical voices. Not everyone was convinced that the Buga sphere represented alien technology. Dr. Gary Nolan from Stanford University, one of the most respected researchers studying anomalous materials, examined the sphere and stated he was 99% sure it was human-made. However, even Nolan couldn't explain several of its most puzzling features: the seamless construction, the internal fiber network, or the documented weight fluctuations. The skeptical case gained strength when Colombian media discovered that David Vez, the man who found the sphere, owned a company called Germany Company that sells metal detectors. Even more suspicious, employees of his company appeared in early retrieval videos wearing hazmat suits, suggesting the entire discovery might have been staged as an elaborate marketing stunt. Adding to the credibility concerns was the involvement of Jaime Maussan, the Mexican journalist who presented the sphere to the scientific community. Maussan had a controversial history in UFO research, having previously promoted the Nazca alien mummies that experts later debunked as assembled hoaxes made from human and animal remains. His track record made many researchers cautious about accepting the sphere's authenticity at face value. Technical analysis of the videos showing the sphere in flight revealed potential red flags. Some frames showed trajectory inconsistencies that suggested possible computer-generated imagery, and in certain shots, foliage appeared to overlap the orb incorrectly, hallmarks of digital editing. These discrepancies raised questions about whether the sphere had ever actually been filmed flying at all. However, the skeptical explanations faced their own challenges. If this was a hoax, it was incredibly sophisticated, involving multiple scientists from respected institutions who examined the object firsthand. The X-ray analysis revealing the internal structure would have required an extremely complex fabrication process. The documented weight changes and environmental effects would be difficult to fake convincingly over extended periods. Some researchers proposed middle ground explanations. Perhaps the sphere was an advanced human-made drone using directed thrust or plasma propulsion that merely appeared to defy gravity. This would explain the unusual flight characteristics while keeping the technology within the realm of classified but terrestrial science. The fiber optic network inside could represent an advanced sensing system for data collection or surveillance purposes. The scientific community remained divided, with evidence supporting multiple interpretations. What everyone agreed on was that more rigorous testing was needed, preferably by multiple independent laboratories using standardized protocol. The sphere represented either a breakthrough in our understanding of physics, an elaborate deception, or confirmation of technology far beyond publicly acknowledged human capabilities. 3 scenarios for humanity's future. As analysis of the Buga sphere continued, researchers identified 3 possible explanations, each carrying profound implications for humanity's future. The first scenario suggested the sphere represented classified human technology. Some nation or private entity had mastered principles of gravity manipulation far beyond what was publicly known. If true, this would mean we were much closer to revolutionary breakthroughs than anyone realized. Consider what mastery of gravity control would mean for human civilization. A technology that could reduce an object's mass by 80% would transform space travel overnight. The enormous fuel requirements that make rocket launches so expensive would become irrelevant. We could achieve affordable access to space within years rather than decades, opening up the solar system for exploration and colonization. The same technology could revolutionize energy production, potentially providing clean, limitless power that could solve climate change and transform human society. The second scenario painted a more sobering picture. The sphere was an elaborate hoax designed to capitalize on public interest in UFOs and alien technology. This would represent a wake-up call for the disclosure movement and UFO research community, demonstrating how easily sophisticated deceptions could capture worldwide attention and resources. The evidence pointing to a possible marketing stunt, including the Sphere Finder's connection to a metal detector company, couldn't be easily dismissed. If the sphere proved to be a hoax, it would highlight the urgent need for better verification protocols in anomalous phenomena research. The fact that respected institutions like Mexico's National Autonomous University had invested time and resources showed how convincing such deceptions could become. This scenario would be disappointing, but necessary for maintaining scientific credibility in a field often dismissed by mainstream academia. The third scenario was the most revolutionary. The sphere represented authentic, non-human technology. This would mean humanity possessed definitive proof of technology centuries or millennia beyond our own capabilities. The implications would be staggering on every level: scientific, philosophical, religious, and geopolitical. If autonomous probes with gravity manipulation capabilities were monitoring Earth, it would confirm we are not alone in the universe and that advanced intelligences are aware of our existence. The sphere's sophisticated internal sensing apparatus suggested active data collection about our world. We would need to confront uncomfortable questions about how long they had been watching, what they had learned, and what their intentions might be. From a national security perspective, the stakes couldn't be higher. Any nation that successfully reverse-engineered such technology would gain an insurmountable military and economic advantage. This might explain why governments worldwide had become more open about UAP encounters in recent years. They could be preparing the public for broader revelations about non-human technology operating in our atmosphere. The race to understand and replicate such capabilities would reshape global power structures and international relations in ways we could barely imagine. The bigger picture unfolds. The story of the Buga sphere extends far beyond a single mysterious object that fell from the sky in Colombia. It represents a convergence of decades of UFO research, government disclosure, and scientific investigation that is forcing humanity to confront possibilities we had previously relegated to science fiction. Whether the sphere proves to be human technology, an elaborate hoax, or genuine non-human artifacts, its emergence marks a pivotal moment in our understanding of what might be possible. The parallels between the sphere and Bob Lazar's 1989 testimony are too specific and detailed to dismiss as mere coincidence. A seamless metallic sphere with a central chip surrounded by smaller spherical components, exhibiting weight anomalies and apparent gravity manipulation. These match exactly what Lazar described when he claimed to have worked on alien technology at Area 51. For over 3 decades, Lazar's story remained unverifiable, existing in the gray area between belief and skepticism that characterizes so much of UFO research. What makes the current situation unprecedented is the level of official acknowledgement surrounding these phenomena. The Pentagon has confirmed the existence of metallic orbs in our atmosphere, declassified footage of them, and admitted they represent technology beyond current human capabilities. This official recognition transforms the conversation from fringe speculation to legitimate scientific inquiry backed by government resources and military sensor data. The global pattern of similar objects appearing worldwide suggests we're dealing with a coordinated phenomenon that has been operating for decades, possibly centuries. The fact that these spheres often appear near military installations and conflict zones indicates either sophisticated surveillance operations or systematic study of human activities. If these represent autonomous probes, they demonstrate a level of technological sophistication that challenges our assumptions about our place in the universe. The scientific implications alone are staggering. If the sphere's reported properties are genuine, seamless construction, mass manipulation, advanced materials, and fiber optic networks using principles we don't understand, it represents multiple breakthrough technologies packaged into a single device. Reverse engineering even one of these capabilities could accelerate human technological development by decades or centuries. But perhaps the most significant aspect of the Buga sphere story is what it reveals about humanity's readiness to confront extraordinary possibilities. The mainstream scientific community's willingness to seriously examine the object, government officials' acknowledgement of similar phenomena, and public interest in understanding rather than dismissing these anomalies suggests we may finally be mature enough as a species to handle whatever answers emerge from rigorous investigation. The question is no longer whether strange things are happening in our skies. It's whether we have the courage and wisdom to pursue the truth wherever it leads us. Thanks for watching another episode. While you are still here, make sure to click the video on your screen for more quality content.